This deck is all about Biomathmatician and Fractal tokens. I've had a playset for a while and never knew what to do with it. Well, here's my attempt at a Fractal Pauper deck including it. And if you like fractals, I do monthly printable tokens for my Patreon subscribers, and you'll have access to this fantastic fractal token from a couple months ago. Now, this is not a definitive deck tech, rather a deck proposal. I want your suggestions on what needs to be swapped out for a more streamlined deck. But we'll start with creating our fractals. Biomathmatician is a 2/2 that enters with a 0/0 fractal, and then it places a +1/+1 counter on all our fractals. I thought this was a neat way to build a fractal army, so I added even more ways to fractal it up. And of course, we'll have 4 of these in the deck. Fractal summoning is the next most obvious choice for the deck. It's a lesson that creates a fractal with X +1/+1 counters on it, so we can use this early-ish game to make a 1/1 or later in the game to make like a 4/4 or something. It's easy to use at any point in the game, so I've added 4 to the deck. Serpentine Curve once again creates a 0/0 fractal. Then we'll put X +1/+1 counters on it based on how many instants and sorceries are in our exile and in our graveyard. And the majority of the deck are those 2 things, so this can possibly place a ton of counters on it. 4 of these. This one was more expensive, so there's only 2 in the deck, but Leyline Invocation is incredible, even though it's a steep 6 mana. We'll create a fractal and then put X counters on it, where X is the number of lands we control. So it'll be at least 6 by the time we cast this, a fun late game card that makes a really big creature. Now, where would our tokens be without some help? This is probably my favorite card in the deck, and I feel like it needs to see more play, but it's Square Up. For just 2 mana, we can make one of our fractals a base 4/4, and all our fractals will already have +1/+1 counters on them, so they'll already be at least a 5/5 when it swings or blocks, and Square Up is an instant, so we'll be able to do it whenever we want, so I've definitely added 4 copies of this. Another overlooked card, from what I've seen, is Bioshift. I've seen it have fun in Commander, and I wanted to showcase it here. For just 1 hybrid Simic mana at instant speed, we can move any number of +1/+1 counters from one of our creatures onto another creature we control. So if one of our fractals would die, we'll just move all its counters to a different one. It's extremely useful in the right situation, and I've got 2 of them in the main deck. And now that we've got some creature stuff going on, how are we going to cast all this stuff? Rampant Growth can handle that, finding us some lands along the way. 4 of these. 4 copies of Explore let us draw a card and play an additional land this turn, kind of covering a pseudo-ramp thing and a card draw spell. Another spell almost exactly the same as that is Growth Spiral, drawing a card and putting a land from our hand onto the battlefield. 4 copies of this will surely keep us ahead, right? Protecting our things is very important as well. I thought it was appropriate to add 4 counter spells to the deck. You can just never go wrong with this one. And then we'll have 2 Snakeskin Veils for the extra +1/+1 counter and Hexproof for the turn. Not too shabby for 1 green mana. So rounding off the main deck, we'll have 8 Forests and 8 Islands, 4 Thornwood Falls for the life gain, and 2 Tanglepool Bridges for their indestructibility. Moving on to the sideboard, there's 1 more copy of Snakeskin Veil, 2 more copies of Bioshift, 4 Arbor Armaments to grant more +1/+1 counters, as well as Reach for the turn. For those pesky red decks, 4 copies of Blue Elemental Blast, and lastly 4 copies of Gaia's Gift. I really love this one. It's a better version of Snakeskin Veil from earlier, but at 2 mana instead of 1, just some extra protection. Now it's my turn to hear from you. What did you think? What did I get wrong? And what would you add? And then make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss your weekly dose of magic.